Welcome to a journey through the mysterious and the macabre. In this video, we'll uncover the 15 most haunted places in Wales, a land steeped in history, legends, and spine-chilling ghost stories. From restless spirits in ancient castles to eerie whispers in abandoned inns, these locations will leave you questioning what lurks in the shadows. Are you brave enough to explore them with us? 1. Kash F Manor, the shadow in the hall. As the clock struck midnight, a chilling wind swept through the ancient halls of Kash F Manor. Built in the 16th century, the manor is known for its ghostly inhabitants. One particularly terrifying account comes from a visitor who stayed after hours. Exploring the dimly lit corridors, they felt an overwhelming sense of unease, as though unseen eyes were watching. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind them, though no one was there. Turning a corner, they came face to face with a shadowy figure dressed in period clothing, its face obscured by darkness. The figure silently raised an arm and pointed toward the stairs. Frozen with fear, the visitor turned to flee, but when they looked back, the figure was gone. Later, staff explained that many had reported seeing the same entity, a former servant who met a tragic end on the staircase. To this day, the manor remains a place where the past and present collide, and its shadows hide secrets that refuse to rest. 2. Skirrid Inn, the Noose's Curse. The Skirrid Inn, Wales's oldest pub, holds a sinister past. In its upper room, centuries ago, criminals were tried and hanged. One stormy night, a traveler booked a room, unaware of the inn's dark reputation. As the wind howled outside, they awoke to the sensation of a tight pressure around their neck, as if a rope were being pulled. Gasping for air, they struggled, only for the sensation to vanish as suddenly as it began. Shaking, they looked toward the window and saw the faint outline of a man dangling from the rafters, his lifeless body swaying with the storm. Terrified, the traveler fled, vowing never to return. Locals believe the ghost of a wrongly accused man haunts the inn, cursed to replay his final moments for eternity. 3. Margam Castle, the Headless Huntsman. Margam Castle, with its Gothic spires and hauntingly beautiful grounds, is home to the ghost of a headless huntsman. One visitor, exploring the castle at dusk, heard the sound of hoofbeats echoing through the grounds. As they turned a corner, they saw the shadowy outline of a rider atop a massive black horse. The rider had no head, yet he moved with eerie precision, his cloak billowing as if carried by an unseen wind. Paralyzed with fear, the visitor could only watch as the huntsman approached, only to vanish into thin air as the clock struck 8. Later, they learned that the huntsman was said to have been beheaded in a hunting accident centuries ago. Now he roams the grounds, forever searching for his missing head. 4. Plas Teg Mansion. The Crying Lady Plas Teg Mansion is infamous for its ghostly apparitions, but none are as tragic as the Crying Lady. A young woman, betrayed by her lover, took her life by leaping from the mansion's balcony. One stormy evening, a group of paranormal investigators entered the mansion, eager to capture evidence of the supernatural. As they climbed the grand staircase, a mournful wail echoed through the halls. Following the sound, they saw the translucent figure of a woman in a white dress, tears streaming down her pale face. She gazed at them briefly before turning and walking through a solid wall. The investigators later discovered that the wall once housed a doorway leading to the balcony where she died. To this day, her cries can still be heard on stormy nights. 5. Pembroke Castle. The Whispering Night. Pembroke Castle, with its imposing walls and ancient history, hides a chilling secret. Visitors often report hearing whispers in the empty halls, as though unseen voices are discussing long-forgotten battles. One evening, a guard patrolling the castle heard faint whispers and followed the sound to the dungeon. There, in the dim light, he saw the ghostly figure of a knight, his armor dented and blood-stained, sitting on the cold stone floor. The knight turned his head slowly and whispered, "I failed them," before vanishing into thin air. Shaken, the guard later learned of a knight who had been imprisoned in the dungeon for abandoning his comrades during battle. His spirit now roams the castle, haunted by guilt and seeking redemption in the shadows of Pembroke's ancient walls. 6. Ruthin Gaol. The angry prisoner Ruthin Gaol, a former Victorian prison, is said to be haunted by the spirit of William Hughes, a notorious murderer who was executed there in the 1800s. One night, a visitor on a ghost tour lingered behind the group, exploring the dark, narrow corridors alone. Suddenly, the air grew cold, and the sound of rattling chains echoed through the empty hall. A low, guttural growl sent chills down their spine. As they turned, they were face to face with a translucent figure, a man with wild eyes and blood-stained hands. He lunged toward them, only to vanish inches away. The visitor fled in terror, later learning that Hughes had once tried to escape his execution, attacking guards in a blind rage. To this day, his vengeful spirit prowls the jail, filled with anger at his fate. 7. Cardiff Castle. The ghostly legionnaire Cardiff Castle, built on the site of an ancient Roman fort, is said to be haunted by a phantom legionnaire. A security guard patrolling the castle one foggy night reported hearing the sound of heavy boots marching in unison. Following the noise, he saw a lone figure in Roman armor standing by the old fort walls. The ghost's face was pale and expressionless, its eyes fixed on a distant horizon. As the guard approached, the figure dissipated into the mist, leaving only the faint scent of earth and iron behind. Many believe the legionnaire was a soldier who perished defending the fort centuries ago, his spirit bound to the castle, forever on watch for enemies who will never come. 8. Aberglasney Gardens. The restless gardener. Aberglasney Gardens may look serene during the day, but by night, its beauty takes a sinister turn. One evening, a couple wandering through the gardens after hours heard the sound of a shovel digging into the earth. They followed the noise and saw a figure in old-fashioned gardening clothes bent over a patch of soil. When they called out, the figure turned toward them, revealing hollow eyes and a face that seemed to shimmer like mist. As the couple watched in horror, the ghostly gardener vanished into the bushes, leaving behind only the sound of rustling leaves. Locals say the gardener was a man who worked tirelessly to preserve the gardens, but died tragically on the grounds. His restless spirit is said to remain, tending the land even in death. 9. Newton House. The choking spirit Newton House is infamous for the terrifying presence of a vengeful ghost. One night, a woman visiting the house decided to stay back and take photos after the tour ended. As she stood alone in the grand drawing room, she suddenly felt an invisible force grip her throat. Gasping for air, she struggled to break free but could see no one around her. Just as quickly as it began, the sensation stopped, leaving her shaken and gasping. She later learned of the legend of a young woman who was strangled in the house by an enraged suitor. Her spirit, consumed by anger and despair, is said to lash out at anyone who dares disturb her eternal sorrow. 10. Conwy Castle. The Trapped Princess. The ancient walls of Conwy Castle echo with the sorrowful cries of a trapped princess. Centuries ago, a young noblewoman was locked away in the tower by her father, who disapproved of her love for a commoner. One evening, a visitor exploring the castle after dark heard soft sobbing coming from the tower. Climbing the winding staircase, they saw a faint, glowing figure of a woman in a flowing gown, her face streaked with ghostly tears. As they approached, she looked up and whispered, "Set me free." Before they could respond, the figure dissolved into the cold stone walls. The story of the princess's tragic imprisonment has haunted Conwy Castle for generations, her spirit forever yearning for the freedom she was denied in life. 11. St. Fagans National Museum of History. The Phantom Footsteps. St. Fagans National Museum of History, a sprawling open-air museum, preserves Welsh culture, but also its ghosts. Late one evening, a security guard patrolling the grounds heard footsteps crunching on gravel behind him. Turning, he found no one there. He continued walking, but the footsteps followed, growing louder and quicker. Suddenly, the air grew icy, and a whisper hissed in his ear, "Leave." Panicked, he sprinted to the exit. Staff later told him the museum's grounds are haunted by several spirits, including a mysterious figure in old-fashioned clothes who vanishes into thin air. Visitors often report hearing disembodied voices and seeing fleeting shadows among the historic buildings, as if the past refuses to let go. 12. The Red Lion Inn, Penderyn. The shattered mirror, the Red Lion Inn, may seem like a quaint pub, but it harbors a sinister presence. One stormy night, a bartender cleaning up after hours noticed a mirror across the room fogging up, though the fire was blazing and the room was warm. As he approached, words began to form in the condensation. "Get out." Suddenly, the mirror shattered with a deafening crash, though no one had touched it. The bartender fled, leaving the pub in darkness. Locals say the inn is haunted by the spirit of a man who died in a bar fight decades ago, his rage manifesting through violent poltergeist activity. Many guests have reported objects moving, cold drafts, and unsettling whispers, urging them to leave. 13. Castell Coch. The Wailing Maiden nestled in a forest, Castell Coch looks like a fairy tale castle, but its beauty hides a tragic secret. Centuries ago, a young maiden fell in love with a castle guard. When her love was forbidden, she threw herself from the tower in despair. One night, a visitor staying near the castle awoke to the sound of heart-wrenching cries echoing through the trees. Drawn by the sound, they ventured closer to the castle, where they saw a pale figure of a woman in a flowing gown standing on the tower's edge. Before their eyes, she leapt, but when they rushed forward, no one was there. Locals believe the maiden's spirit is trapped, doomed to relive her final moments forever. 14. Snowdon Mountain, the Ghostly Climbers. Snowdon Mountain, the highest peak in Wales, is not just a hiker's paradise, but also a haunt for restless spirits. A group of climbers ascending the mountain at dawn felt an inexplicable cold despite the clear weather. Along the trail, they saw two figures ahead, moving silently and unnaturally quickly over the rocky terrain. When they called out, the figures stopped, turned, and vanished into the mist. Later, they discovered the story of two climbers who perished in a blizzard decades ago. Their bodies never recovered. Many believe their ghosts still wander the mountain, warning others of the dangers hidden in its beauty. 15. Tintern Abbey. The silent monks, the ruins of Tintern Abbey, are eerily beautiful by day, but transform into something far darker at night. One moonlit evening, A photographer hoping to capture the abbey's haunting beauty felt an oppressive silence settle over the ruins. As he adjusted his camera, he noticed shadows moving along the cloisters. Peering closer, he saw a procession of hooded figures, their forms faintly glowing in the moonlight. They moved silently, their faces obscured, before fading into the darkness. Locals say these are the ghosts of monks who once lived and died at the abbey, their spirits still bound to the sacred ground. Some visitors claim to hear faint chanting or feel cold hands brushing against them as they walk through the ruins. These 15 most haunted places in Wales hold stories that blur the line between history and the supernatural. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the chilling encounters and eerie legends from these locations are unforgettable. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And tell us, would you dare visit any of these haunted places? Until next time, stay curious and stay brave.